I know he's questionable. I doubt that he'll play. Even if he does, he may be at 60, 70%. He changes the entire complexion of what this team can do. And I know the Golden State Warriors are a third-quarter team, but I think Game 6 showed us just how much Houston needs a guy like Chris Paul, his leadership, his ability to take over offensively, defensively in that second half.
Well, and the problem for Game 6, though, also was that when Harden wasn't getting the calls and his shot stopped falling, they were only down 7 at the end of 3. And it was the fourth quarter that they got blown out of the building. They had no counterpunch. They had no answer to the Warriors' haymaker.
But to me, that's where Chris Paul comes in. And that's what we've seen throughout the race, especially in Game 4 and Game 5. He's the guy who comes in, takes over, settles down the offense. James Harden has struggled. I mean, this is a three-point shooting team in the Houston Rockets, and James Harden has struggled so mightily from the three-point line.
So how much is on the line tonight for James Harden?
I think a lot is on the line for James Harden, but to me, he has not really deviated from what we've expected of him. He's expected to be the regular season MVP. I think he had a tremendous season. He's had some big games for the Houston Rockets, but to me, he hasn't shown to be the elite level player that will take over in the postseason. And Chris Paul alleviated some of that pressure from him while he was playing. But to me, this is it. It's going to say a lot. And we heard James Harden say it. We heard Mike D'Antoni say it. We've got one game here in our building to go to the NBA Finals. Well, see if you can prove that that's worth it.
Yeah, and we've seen the other superstars, either that being Durant for a short period of time, or we see what LeBron does when his players are absent. So this could be a career changer for James Harden. He has not played great in this playoffs. He has not played great. Had a very good first half. Finally got off of that 0-for streak from the three-point line. And you guys had mentioned, no, this has not been he's been MVP during the regular season, but this has not been an MVP playoff for him. He needs to be able to match whoever goes off for Golden State, because we know one of them guys is going for 30 tonight. And you have to have James Harden to be able to counteract that shot for shot or playmate for playmate. If your shot is not going, once he gets into the paint, either been distribute an alley-oop or kick the ball back out for some open three looks. And when they go on those big runs, because we don't have Chris Paul, as you mentioned, sir, we need James Harden to settle the team down. Chris Paul doesn't have to be on the court for Harden to be the calming influence on a team. When they go on these outstanding runs, you need someone to set. Let's call a play. Let's touch the ball 5 times before we get a quick shot up, and we didn't see that in game number 6.
Listen, Harden's been extraordinary in game 1s of each of these playoff series. A triple-plus performances in all the game 1s. And about a B++ performance in the ensuing games. What does this mean for Harden? If they win this game tonight, he will have to have been brilliant. And if they win this game tonight, then Harden will be discussed in a way that, despite going to be the MVP this year, he has never discussed as possibly the second best player in the league. No. Like, set LeBron aside. We know that LeBron's the best player in the league. KD gets discussed as second best player. Some people say Steph. I heard some people at the end of the regular season saying, is it Anthony Davis? James Harden last year, people were asking, was it Russell Westbrook? Harden never gets considered in that era, even though he's going to win the MVP. They win the game tonight, and he's brilliant. People absolutely will look at him that way.
Do you believe that, though? Do you believe, like, think about, and I know LeBron's on a whole nother level. We have expectations when the moment matters most that he's going to come through. I feel that way about Kevin Durant, about Steph Curry.
Do you feel that way about James Harden?
I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Is that why? Do you think that's
but I don't feel that way about Steph. I don't feel that way about Steph, and I'm unsure about the only guy that I know in a big game is going to show up is LeBron. KD, I know, is going to be able to get his shots. Like, there's no question about it. Steph has hot and cold games in the playoffs. We've seen that repeatedly. Like, Anthony Davis was building towards that. He just hasn't played enough big playoff games.
Those other guys got championships, though. We saw Durant do it in the face of LeBron James last year. We have seen Steph over the last 4 years be able to perform, not necessarily to the regular season success, but he performed superstar level in the playoffs. So we haven't seen Harden, and we don't have the expectation. We don't have the expectation for Harden that we have on those other players. And when he doesn't play well, he doesn't get the criticism. I don't see Steph going 0 for 22 and us not being after his head. Durant, if he was 0 for 22, imagine the criticism that would have gone with that.
Don't you think we would have been if they hadn't won those 2 games? I think the only reason that Harden got something of a pass on that 0 for 22 stretch is when he was 0 for 20 from the midway point of Game 4 and the entirety of Game 5, and they won those 2 games. Otherwise, I think people would have been
How
after
long were we
him.
talking about Steph being hurt, though? If he was hurt, like when he was missing shots, the big question and dialogue was, oh, is he still hurt? He's not playing. With James Harden, we never point to anything like that. I just think, and to your point about them having a championship, their mentality is entirely different. And I think for Steve Kerr, for these guys trying to navigate how to maintain their level of greatness and still chasing where they want to get to, and I think that's why tonight they're going to flip the switch of knowing exactly what they need to do to get to the point they want to.
And you have to realize the totality of the situation. If you win this game, you're facing one of the weakest teams ever in the championship.
Absolutely.
So this is a championship right here.
This
is a championship trophy tonight's game.
And I think the thing we can draw a direct line to with Harden is he is the most prolific foul drawer, free throw getter we've seen in modern NBA history from a non-center. Like, take Shaq out of it, and he's basically the most prolific guy at drawing fouls throughout the regular season. And what we have seen repeatedly in the playoffs, even though I think some of the criticism's been a little unfair, is as the whistle gets tighter and they're letting them play a little looser, he doesn't adjust so great. We saw that in the game 6. Like, if he's not getting those calls going to the rim, a lot of the impact is muted to it.
When we judge the Heisman Trophy, we judge all these things, but we always say, does he have a Heisman moment? James Harden has not had that MVP Heisman moment as it comes to the NBA. And tonight could be that moment for his career.
And quickly, does that change his reputation, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, if they win,
because it gets him a ring.
So you
get his jersey really retired at the
You're
strip
all on my
club.
side with this.
Get his jersey retired somewhere other than the strip club.
I didn't have to go there. Sarah, we're going to see you a little bit later on in the show.
Yep.